So, have you ever been sitting in a conference room or, on a video call watching a flashy new software demo?
Oh, yeah. We all have.
Right. And the interface is it's incredibly slick. The features look like absolute magic. And everyone on your team is kind of nodding along, thinking, okay, this is it. This is the platform that's finally going to fix our operations.
Yeah, the dream software.
Exactly. But then, fast forward maybe 6 months, the software is finally installed, and your team actually tries to use it in their regular Tuesday afternoon routine, and it just completely falls apart.
It always does.
It's clunky, it demands information they don't even have, it doesn't fit the actual workflow, and quietly, everyone just goes right back to using their old, messy spreadsheets.
It is a tale as old as enterprise software itself, honestly. The gap between a pristine demo environment and the messy reality of a busy office is it's massive.
And that gap is exactly what we're getting into in today's deep dive. We're looking at a really fascinating AI startup called BrainCo.
Yeah, they're part of the Microsoft for Startups Pegasus portfolio.
Right. And we've got some excellent source material to guide our analysis today. We're looking at excerpts directly from BrainCo's own platform architecture alongside a July 2026 LinkedIn Pulse article by Shishi S.
Who reviewed their recent retail and consumer packaged goods demo, which is a really great read, by the way.
It really is. So the mission for this deep dive is to figure out how BrainCo is bypassing what's known in the industry as the enterprise AI pilot graveyard.
Yeah.
We want to unpack what their highly specific kind of boots on the ground approach can actually teach you about making artificial intelligence function within the chaotic reality of modern institutions.
Yeah, the pilot graveyard. I mean, it sounds dramatic, but it is a very real, very expensive place where enterprise AI projects just go to die.
Millions of dollars just gone.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
And usually a company gets stuck in pilot mode because their data is trapped in silos, right? Like the ERP system, which is essentially the company's central nervous system for money and inventory. It doesn't talk to the CRM where all the sales data lives. And then the pricing system is completely separate from both of those. But, more importantly, the shiny new AI tools just don't match how human beings actually get their work done.
Yeah, the proof of concept always looks great when the data is totally clean and the parameters are controlled in a lab.
Exactly.
But the moment you introduce that AI to the friction of daily operations, to the messy ways people actually work, it stalls. The employees find the new system frustrating, so they just abandon it.
Right. And let's unpack how BrainCo avoids this.
Yeah.
Because they seem to have realized that standard enterprise AI implementation is just entirely backward.
Totally backward.
Most companies start by picking a flashy AI model.
Yeah.
Right? They read about a new foundational model, releasing a new version, leadership gets all excited, and they just buy it.
Yeah.
Then they basically wander around their own company trying to shoehorn this model into their business process.
Which is crazy. I mean, it creates a situation where you have this highly advanced solution that's desperately searching for a problem to solve. It's like a company buying a fleet of massive industrial tractors just because they were the hot new thing on the market, parking them in a corporate office park, and then wandering around trying to figure out what they can possibly plow.
That's a great analogy.
They bought the technology before they even had a use case. BrainCo, however, executes what we can call the outcome-first flip.
Yes. They completely refuse to start with the model. Like, if you were a prospective customer, BrainCo's opening question to you isn't, so which large language model do you want to implement?
Right. They don't care about that yet.
Exactly. Their first question is, what does success look like for your business? They need to know what leadership actually cares about, whether that's speeding up the procurement process, improving supply chain forecast accuracy, or maybe reducing discount leakage.
Oh, right. Which is when sales reps give away unnecessary discounts just to win deals.
Right, exactly. So they work backward from that specific outcome. They take that goal, break the daily workflow into tiny, manageable pieces, and only then do they decide which models and system designs will actually hold up in production to achieve that specific result.
Okay, but I have to push back on this premise for just a second.
Sure.
Because starting with the outcome, I mean, every business book published since 1980 says you should start with your goal.
Fair point.
So why is this so uniquely hard for Fortune 500 companies to do when it comes to artificial intelligence?
Well, the answer really comes down to the mechanics of the current tech hype cycle. I mean, The noise around AI right now is deafening.
It really is. It's everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And leadership teams feel immense tangible pressure from their boards and from their shareholders to announce, hey, we are an AI-driven company.
Right. They just need a press release.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the focus shifts entirely to the technology itself. The goal becomes the implementation of the AI rather than the practical application of it. And BrainCo kind of acts as a grounding force here. They essentially tell leadership that a massive artificial neural network is entirely useless unless it is practically applied to an everyday workflow. They're basically asking companies to ignore the hype, identify what's actually broken, and let BrainCo build the machinery to fix it.
But if you want to understand what is actually broken in a workflow, you can't just look at a polished flowchart that management put together in a boardroom.
Oh, definitely not.
Those charts never reflect reality. You have to see how the work is being done on the ground. And this brings us to a really compelling strategy that BrainCo uses. They don't just email a customer a login link to a new dashboard.
Right. No, they utilize a deployment strategy centered around forward deployed engineers, or FDEs.
FDEs, they actually send a physical team of AI engineers and product specialists to sit right alongside the customer's own operators, which I look at this like they are corporate anthropologists.
Oh, I like that. Corporate anthropologists.
Right, because if you want to study an ancient tribe, you can't just read the official history they wrote about themselves.
No.
You have to go live in the village, sit by the fire, and observe how they actually behave when no one is watching.
That anthropologist analogy highlights exactly what these engineers are looking for. They're hunting for the undocumented manual steps, the informal workarounds that never, ever make it into an official corporate process map.
Yeah.
Think about your own desktop at work right now. You probably have a sticky note with a specific billing code on it,
Oh, I definitely do.
right? Or maybe your procurement manager manually copies and pastes data from a supplier's PDF into some legacy forecasting spreadsheet every single morning. Those little human workarounds are the friction points that cause standard AI implementations to fail.
Because the AI doesn't know about the sticky note.
Exactly. It has no idea. So by sitting there in person, the embedded engineers actually map the messy reality of the customer's world.
But sending top-tier AI engineers from a startup to go sit at a client's desk in a random office park, that sounds incredibly slow.
It does.
And wildly expensive. But in the LinkedIn article, Shish S notes that BrainCo can run a contained pilot and show real business value in just 4 weeks.
Yeah, 4 weeks.
If they are doing this deep anthropological dive into a client's office culture, how on earth do they hit a 4-week time to value?
Well, the forward deployed engineer model isn't a crutch for a product that lacks features, right? It is the essential mechanism for getting complicated AI into production quickly.
Okay.
They achieve that 4-week turnaround because the engineers are combining their rapid on-site domain learning with the foundation of highly reusable tech components.
So they aren't starting from scratch.
Exactly. They aren't writing the software from scratch while sitting at the client's desk. They take BrainCo's existing advanced building blocks and rapidly configure them to handle those undocumented manual steps they're observing in real time.
So they basically bring the heavy machinery with them, and then they figure out exactly where to deploy it based on what the locals are actually doing.
Precisely.
Let's look at how this assembly works in the real world, because the sources detail a case study with a large roofing distributor.
Yes. And roofing is an ideal industry to test this methodology because the supply chain is highly volatile.
Very seasonal, I imagine.
Seasonal, yes, but demand also swings wildly based on totally unpredictable external events. Like if a roofing company is just using historical sales data to predict how many shingles they need to stock next month, their forecast is going to be incredibly inaccurate.
Because last year's sales data has no idea that a Category 4 hurricane is currently brewing off the coast of Florida.
Exactly the problem. So BrainCo enters the picture, and the very first thing they do is build a data layer that pulls in outside signals that the roofing company had never successfully integrated into their legacy systems.
Like what kind of signals?
They pipe in live severe weather tracking, projected hurricane paths, and real-time competitor pricing moves.
Wow, okay. And then the forward deployed engineers sit down with the actual people doing the work, the procurement team, the pricing managers, the sales reps, and they build hyper-specific AI agents for those exact daily routines.
Right.
So for the forecasting team, their agent becomes incredibly sharp because it is now synthesizing historical sales trends with live storm tracking. And for the pricing managers, their agent starts flagging competitor price drops in real time.
Which is huge.
It is, because it directly prevents that discount leakage we mentioned earlier. A manager no longer has to guess if they need to lower a price to win a contract.
Right. And for the sales teams out in the field, they receive agents that serve up what they call next best action prompts. And these prompts are generated by analyzing customer behavior, the live weather events, and the company's own institutional knowledge.
Wait, so if a veteran sales rep has an instinct that says, a storm is hitting Miami tomorrow, I should probably call this specific contractor right now, BrainCo. Essentially mapped that human intuition, codified it, and turned it into an automated prompt generated by an AI agent.
Yeah, they mechanize the intuition.
That's wild.
It is. And the broader implication of this roofing case study is the adoption rate. The result was a suite of AI tools that the employees actually wanted to use.
Because it wasn't just another shiny executive dashboard creating more administrative data entry work for the ground-level employees.
Yes.
It was directly solving their daily pain points and automating their manual research.
But this introduces a structural challenge. To build hyper-specific weather tracking, competitor flagging agents for different departments in just 4 weeks. That requires a technical foundation that goes far beyond what a standard consultant provides.
Yeah, definitely. Because if human engineers are hand-coding these bespoke agent workflows at the client's desk, how does BrainCo keep the underlying software from turning into an unmaintainable plate of spaghetti code?
Exactly.
Let's look at the tech stack, because in the enterprise world, companies usually hire massive system integrators, or SIs, to implement new technology. How does BrainCo's underlying architecture differentiate them from a traditional SI?
Well, traditional system integrators are generally utilized for foundational data plumbing. They are very, very good at figuring out how to move information from point A to point B within legacy systems.
Right.
BrainCo, however, is tackling the incredibly complex artificial intelligence and machine learning problems that sit above that plumbing layer.
Yeah.
They are not merely consultants billing by the hour. They bring their own proprietary suite of operating systems.
Yeah. The sources outline a few of these tools. They have go-to-market and supply chain automation platforms. They have something called GovOS, which is designed to handle permitting, licensing, and casework for government institutions at a national scale. And they have Insurance OS for underwriting and claims processing.
Yeah.
But the bedrock of all of these tools, like the core foundation, is a platform they call Atlas.
Yes, Atlas. Atlas is their foundational platform layer. It boasts sovereign-grade security, which is critical for government and enterprise clients. But the defining characteristic of Atlas is that it guarantees no model lock-in.
Meaning what?
The entire platform is stack agnostic and model neutral.
Okay, I want to pause on that because the sources also note that BrainCo is built by elite engineers recruited from Google, DeepMind, NVIDIA, Palantir, and Tesla.
Yeah, a really serious roster.
Right. So if a startup has that caliber of world-class engineering talent under one roof, why are they so focused on being model neutral? Wouldn't engineers of that level want to build their own proprietary foundational AI model to compete with OpenAI or Google?
I mean, it seems counterintuitive, but remaining model neutral is a highly calculated strategic advantage, particularly when you're selling to massive consumer packaged goods companies or government agencies.
Why is that?
Well, first, it establishes immediate trust. When a client knows they are not going to be permanently locked into a proprietary BrainCo neural network, the friction of signing a massive enterprise contract just drops significantly.
Oh, that makes sense.
And second, it allows the customer to maintain absolute sovereignty over their own data.
So the enterprise client doesn't have to worry that their proprietary supply chain data is being absorbed into a black box model they don't control.
Exactly. That data security is paramount for these big companies. And third, it future-proofs the client's investment. The artificial intelligence landscape is evolving at a breakneck pace, right?
Yeah, it changes every week.
Literally. So by staying model neutral, BrainCo ensures that pure performance guides the platform. If a better open source model is released next month, or if a major player releases a massive leap forward in reasoning capabilities, the Atlas platform can simply swap the new model in.
Oh, wow. So the custom workflows and the user interface stay exactly the same for the employees, but the cognitive engine powering them gets an instant upgrade.
Exactly. It's brilliant.
And we can actually see how rapidly they are iterating this underlying engine based on some of the recent technical updates detailed in the sources. Like in May 2026, they introduced a tool called Session Grep.
Yes. The May update describes Session Grep as a local first memory layer for CLI, or command line interface, agents.
Okay, I am going to need a translation for those of us who don't dream in code.
Fair enough.
The sources explain that Session Grep uses Squalite and FTS5 to turn raw Claude code and Todex CLI transcripts into searchable memory. What is the actual mechanism happening there?
Right. So to understand the mechanism, we have to look at how AI agents actually process information. AI models have what's called a context window, which acts kind of like their short-term working memory.
Okay.
When a developer interacts with an AI agent in a coding environment, the agent generates a continuous transcript of actions, text, and commands.
Like a chat log.
Exactly. Historically, if that transcript gets too long and exceeds the context window, the early information just simply falls out of the agent's memory. It forgets what it did 10 steps ago. And furthermore, once the session ends, that data is essentially unsearchable.
That sounds frustrating. So how do Squalite and FTS5 solve that amnesia?
Well, Sequoia is a highly reliable, lightweight database engine, and FTS5 is a specific extension that allows for rapid full-text search. So by integrating these, BrainCo is essentially taking the agent's transcript and moving it from the fragile short-term working memory into a permanent searchable filing cabinet. The agent can instantly query its own database to recall exactly what code it executed an hour ago without clogging up its expensive limited context window.
So instead of forcing the AI to try and memorize a 500-page manual in its short-term memory, they just give it an incredibly fast index so it can look up the specific answer on demand.
Precisely.
That perfectly sets up their July 2026 update, which directly addresses how agents navigate these complex environments. The update is titled, "Your agent isn't dumb, it's just lost."
I love that title.
Me too.
It captures the core frustration developers face with enterprise AI. When an autonomous agent fails to complete a task, the human assumption is always that the model's reasoning capabilities simply aren't advanced enough.
Like the AI just isn't smart enough yet.
Right. But in reality, the agent usually just loses track of its context and its available tools.
And the sources detail that they fixed this lost agent problem by implementing a per-window table of contents in the MCP tool layer and something called an auto atlas for long-term context. What is the MCP tool layer, and how does a table of contents keep the AI from getting lost?
Okay, so when an AI agent needs to interact with an external system, say pulling a weather report or querying a legacy pricing database, it does so through a tool layer. You can think of this layer as the agent's hands.
Okay.
But as enterprise environments get more complex, the agent is handed hundreds of potential tools. It gets totally overwhelmed.
It doesn't know what to grab.
Exactly. So by adding a dynamic table of contents to that tool layer, BrainCo is giving the agent a live, continuously updating map of exactly which tools and data points are relevant to the specific window it's currently operating in.
So combined with the auto atlas providing that long-term contextual memory, the agent stops wasting its processing power just blindly hunting for the right tool or the right piece of data.
Right. It has a map and it has a memory.
That's incredible.
And this illustrates the fundamental difference between a flashy 10-minute demo and a production-grade system. Demos are tightly constrained. They don't run long enough for an agent to get lost or exceed its context window.
Oh, that's such a good point.
But enterprise reality is continuous. In a live environment, agents require robust memory structures and dynamic mapping to survive the complexity.
So pulling all of these threads together, the core takeaway from BrainCo's architecture is really a massive reality check for the enterprise tech industry.
It absolutely is.
Because the companies that ultimately win the AI race are not going to be the ones who license the absolute largest, most parameter-heavy foundational models and try to force their workforce to adapt to them.
No.
The real winners will be the ones who successfully embed AI into the messy, undocumented existing workflows of their human operators.
Yep. The BrainCo methodology demonstrates that the future of enterprise software is not about forcing human beings to behave like machines. It is about deploying what feels like bespoke, custom-built software for every individual department, all powered underneath by a highly reusable, incredibly resilient AI operating system that can just swap models out as the technology improves.
For you listening right now, whether you are an executive in charge of implementing a massive AI overhaul at a global company, or, you're simply trying to get your small five-person team to adopt a new productivity app, examine your approach.
Ask yourself what you're really focusing on.
Exactly. Are you obsessing over the technical features of the software itself, or are you paying close attention to the sticky notes on the monitors, the manual copy pasting, and the undocumented ways your team actually gets their work done?
Because if you failed to design the implementation around the sticky notes, your new software is inevitably heading straight for the pilot graveyard.
Which leaves us with a final, slightly provocative thought to consider based on these sources. BrainCo boldly stated, your agent isn't dumb, it's just lost.
Yeah.
And in response, they are building these incredibly sophisticated local first memory layers and long-term context maps to perfectly accommodate our human workflows, no matter how chaotic or manual they might be. But what happens when these autonomous agents become so proficient at observing us with their perfect searchable databases and their complete lack of context amnesia that they realize our undocumented human habits are actually the bottleneck in the company's efficiency?
That is the question, isn't it?
The
As the agents gain a clearer map of the entire enterprise, identifying human inefficiency is kind of the inevitable horizon.
So in the future, will the artificial intelligence continue to gracefully adapt to our messy, sticky note reality? Or eventually, will the workforce be forced to adapt to the AI's perfectly optimized, highly logical view of how a business should run?
It's a fascinating shift to think about.
Yeah. When we sit down in the conference room for a software demo 5 years from now, who is really being programmed, the application or us? Something to think about the next time you find yourself manually copying and pasting data on a Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.